council to order and ask everyone to turn off their cell phones or put them on mute, please. Invite Mrs. Hilliard to offer the invocation at the request of Mr. Cheatham.
May we bow. Most holy and all-wise God, it's again that we come thanking you for the bounty blessings that you have bestowed upon us, dear Father. We thank you for this day and realize that this is a day that you have made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. Father God, as we attempt to carry on this business of this great city, we ask that you would lead us and guide us through this endeavor, dear God. Bless all the citizens of this community. Bless the employees and the staff, and grant us thy grace. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thanks. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I didn't get clarification, but do we need to make an amendment to be able to discuss the charter changes the citizens have brought tonight?
Okay. Let's add that as item D under the old and new business, and we'll call that other charter recommendation, change recommendations.
Is that a motion?
Is that a motion, Mr. McLemore?
Yes.
We have others, so why don't we wrap them together? You want to do them individually?
Individual.
Okay.
Well,
I would assume if they're charter changes, we'd take those as a group.
No, I don't have any.
Okay.
I don't have.
We have some.
I talked to him.
Yeah.
You
Mary
talking
has
about
one and she
The
has one.
new ones.
The new one.
That has nothing to do with the last ones presented.
But I think
Separate item.
I
It's
think that the people would like those included.
I understand.
So if we discuss one group, then move on to surplus property, and then come back to them, it'll be two separate things when they're actually, I think, the citizen expressed that he would like his included with the ones that were already reviewed by the city attorney.
I'm not sure how you can conclude them because we have a whole discussion that's backed up by legal authority for the ones that have already been submitted that we don't have yet. So all we can do is have them presented to us like we did at the last meeting.
Exactly. From what my understanding is, that is the desire of the citizen to have the same exact process happen, submit their charter changes for legal, to see if they meet legal requirements. And once we have all of the changes that meet legal requirements, we can move forward to vote on what we want to put into a public hearing.
Put that in the form of a motion, Mr. McLemore.
I make a motion that we include any new charter amendments to be forwarded to the city attorney for legality, to be included for discussion along with the first four exhibits.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of the motion?
I'm not.
Discussion?
Are we voting on an agenda adoption?
Yes.
Or are we voting on on a motion to?
Amend the agenda to include it with the
Because there's a
ones
lot
that
of
were-
other stuff that was added into that motion. I mean, I don't mind amending the agenda, but I don't want to vote on, I mean, it seemed like it was a lot.
Together.
Yeah, it was
He's
just a,
lumping them together so that it will be under B instead of D.
but there was a lot of other stuff that came along
Well,
behind that we
yeah.
have to hook them together
Just a
as
minute.
one. And I'm confused whether I'm voting on an agenda change or am I voting that we're going to hook them all together and use them as, present them as one. That's two different votes.
And I
That's what
think
you're.
that's his motion, is to put it together as one.
No, my motion is so that we will include it on the agenda, at least at B or prior to B, so that when we do discuss C, the proposed charter changes. We discuss charter changes at one meeting where we have the legal information on these new charter changes as well, so that we
And
don't
that's
have
in-
them broken apart. They're the same thing. So the
And
motion is to
that's
amend the
your
agenda
motion.
to add to.
Okay.
Add
And the
it
motion, is there further discussion?
I'm confused also.
Okay.
The motion is to,
Request that other charter changes be included in Part B for consideration this evening and
No, by the attorney.
to be
Oh, see,
forwarded
that's
to
it.
the, it's really an action item, but he wants to include it in Part B. And I think the process, and I think we have to vote that up or down. The discussion part, I would say, would include the fact that we have a process in place that meets the timetable, and any change in that would alter the availability to the General Assembly for the charter changes that have already been put forward. Now,
although we can present this to the attorney,
correct.
and it will come after.
Well, not according to his motion.
But
According to
he's
mine,
asking for that to be brought together.
according to mine, the citizens, I would like for, or the citizens would like for their, what they think should happen,
To be
to get a
included.
ruling from the city attorney, if it's legal. He lets us know. And then when we say, okay, everybody who has expressed an interest in a change has told us, now let's talk about it and hurry up and get it to the General Assembly. But we don't go send off one batch before we have a chance to listen to the other citizens and have it reviewed by the city attorney.
Number one,
It came into
may I, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Hilliard.
Number one, this was presented to me by,
Mr. Sykes.
yes, Mr. Sykes at 5 o'clock today. It's about 6 or 7 pages. I haven't had time to read this, and there's no way I can take no action on this tonight.
I wouldn't want you to take action on it tonight. I want us to do the same thing that Councilman Burgess did at the last council meeting when it was thrown on us. We forwarded it to the city attorney for legal review. Now we're back to just discuss what a citizen gave to him. Now, we do the same thing with that, but we don't make any votes on anything to send to the General Assembly without giving other citizens an opportunity to have their recommendations included.
That's your motion, and there's a second.
You,
Okay, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. I'm sorry, Mr. Cheatham.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know, I mean, they're both tied together, but I think the discussion on one, I still think on this agenda, they need to be separated, even though I'm all for forwarding this to them. We've got a discussion on some that have already been checked for legal purposes. We have other ones that I just had some handed to me as well from one of my citizens, which I plan on turning over to the city attorney as well and giving a copy to each one of you. But I don't think they need to be discussed together at this, because as was said, they're not, we just got them, we haven't had a chance to look at them, and I don't have any problem with the city attorney having them and bring them at the next meeting, these.
I agree.
But I don't think they need to be tied with the ones that have already gotten into the well.
Okay.
I agree,
Ms. Blackwell, you've made your point.
Mr.
We've
Mayor.
got, yes,
as I understood Councilman McLemore, he wants them to all go to the legislature at one time. I
correct.
would suggest that you find out from the city attorney if that's possible, if you treat it in the manner in which you're about to vote on, because there is a timeline involved. If something comes back to you at your next meeting, I don't know. I think maybe to help you vote, you should know if that is possible to put them all together and get them to this legislature.
Mr. Williams, do you want to address that?
Yes, I'll be happy to. If you will turn over to page 2B in your agenda and look at the cover memo that I give you, I clearly indicate that the first set of proposed amendments to the charter is on a track right now, which would include discussion tonight by council. If there is a vote by council tonight that there be a public hearing, then the public hearing would be held on November 28th. Citizens would have an opportunity to speak at that public hearing on the proposed amendments to the charter that we already have. If after that public hearing is held if council wants to adopt a motion to forward any of those 4 proposals or all of those 4 proposals to the General Assembly. A motion could be passed on the 28th. The deadline for filing a pre-file charter amendment is December the 5th. So I don't see that proposals coming in tonight can be on the same track as the proposals that came in at the last meeting. There's no way I can give you the detail of the legal significance of the charter amendments so that you can get them caught up to the track that's already in place and going. You would have to, the biggest thing is you would have to have a public notice. Your notice of public hearing would have to state briefly what the proposed new charter amendments are and be in the paper for 10 days, and there's no way that can happen because it wouldn't give me a chance to analyze it, wouldn't give y'all a chance to discuss it so that it could be in the discussion hopper on November the 28th. It's just not possible.
Yeah,
Mr. Mayor, may I
I
make a-
apologize, but I thought you needed to understand
The
what
time.
you would get out of what you're about to vote on.
Mr. Black?
This Mr. Williams over there, I don't know what the rush is on this. And I think you need to give all citizens of Franklin the chance to make, have an input on this. And I know at the last council meeting, like Mr. McElroy said, this was handed to us. We had never seen the motion until it was passed out to us. And it was said that we had some constituents throughout Franklin that asked for this to be done. So why are we going to violate other citizens of Franklin that want to make a point here and be considerate in the amendment? And so I don't see where the big rush is. It's not like we're trying to rush this thing through to get it through. For some reason unknown to me, I can speculate, but unknown to me and a lot of the citizens of Franklin. So I would like to see this thing slow it down a little bit. And let's be fair to all people. I mean, because you come up with a motion and you think it needs to be pushed right through. And I disagree with that.
Okay.
Because I know we have certain ones, I'm not going to get into all that, but I think we need to hold off
on
and be
point.
fair to everybody. Yes, sir.
I also would like to say that at the bottom of the first page, it says from the Citizens Award 5 to Councilwoman Mary Hilliard. I would like to say I haven't received a call from a citizen concerning this.
Well, let me say one thing.
Okay, just a minute.
I do not have,
Just a minute. The discussion is about amending the
okay.
agenda.
okay.
We have a motion on the floor to amend the agenda to include that as Part B. That's the request from Mr. McLemore.
I'd just like to, I'm sorry.
We have a second to that. We have to vote on that motion, and then we can vote to...
Substitute motion.
uh,
May I make a substitute?
You may.
I'd like to move that we amend the agenda to include all new proposals for the city charter changes under D, under old and new business.
The new proposal.
Yes.
Okay. Now, point of order.
And the point of order is what, sir?
Well,
Second.
the amendment of the amendment to the amendment. Ms. Heath, Ms. Johnson, I'd really rather deal with the first one and then making a motion to where we want to put it. If that motion fails or if it passes, we leave it where it is.
So if there's no second to that, then that's what we would do, correct?
That's what I
That
would
is
believe.
Okay.
Okay,
If there's no second to
No
it,
second
that's
to
what
the
my motion.
substitute motion.
She made a substitute.
okay. I have a
Then
motion
wouldn't the
on the...
substitute motion fail?
We
No,
haven't
you
passed.
can't
voted
vote
yet.
if you don't get a second.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor as a substitute motion to put all newly recommended charter changes under item D of old and new business. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Is there, any further discussion? Just leave it alone. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Nay,
Aye.
Aye.
you didn't ask, was there discussion before you put forth the
Aye.
vote? You didn't ask for discussion before you put forth the vote. Mr. Mayor,
And I,
as a point of order, you have to ask, is there any discussion before we vote?
I thought I'd indicated that. If I ignored that, Mr. McLemore?
Right, because it made a difference in how I voted. What I'd like to say, and I don't know if Mr. Bly understood when he seconded that motion, because what we're doing is basically saying, let's discuss the charter changes that were presented by these invisible citizens last week. We're saying, let's discuss that, complete that, and then we can get to talking about the proposed charter changes from the citizens that have presented them tonight.
That is
And the
correct.
citizens tonight, which are real people, not just saying some citizens gave me this, they're real people here to represent their own interests, said they would like these charter changes that they have drafted to be included with any discussion regarding charter changes.
That is correct.
Yeah.
We have a motion and a second on the floor.
You just voted.
And there's a vote.
But,
You didn't want
You
to second
voted.
it.
There was a second. We've already
Yeah, but
voted.
he didn't know what you were saying.
But you voted.
wait, my understanding of this was you were going to tie the proposed charter changes from the last council meeting and what the citizens here have brought up to the council members here to tie it all in together.
That is not correct.
Well,
Ms. Johnson made the motion to have all new charter changes presented to be entered as new business under item D.
After we've done.
The new
finished.
items only.
Correct?
Well, I misunderstood that.
See,
Okay.
he misunderstood, so he didn't properly
I will
second
give
it.
you the courtesy of withdrawing your second.
I'm going to withdraw my.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor, as previously stated. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
No, discussion.
I'm sorry, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
He's
I
trying
like
to
to
speak.
comment. I like to say, to be fair to all people, this thing with this,
Mr. Bly, I think you made that really clear a minute ago.
yeah, but I like to add a little bit more to
Well,
it. Because the people need to know, Mayor, what's really going on here. And I think they can see the smoke screen through here from day one at the last council meeting. And it's like Ms. Hiller said, nobody's called her from her ward expressing they wanted this sort of change in our charter. And I'm going to say, number two, I've never received a call, but I've been told there were people, constituents in my ward, but I've yet to find them. So I think you need to be fair to all people.
I
not
never
just
received a call, Mr. Mayor. From my
I
constituents.
think we're still looking at being fair, just that these are advanced in the process of going through and the other ones are not, but I still think by the end of the year, these will still be to the city attorney and back to us. I think that the smokescreen is trying to stop by saying, I've got all these to go now. I got these tonight as I sat down.
When were you supposed to get them before tonight?
Mr. McLemore,
Call for the question. We have discussed
We have
this
a
long. We're
motion on
just
the
changing
floor.
the agenda.
and a
We
second
haven't got to the item
to
yet.
change the agenda.
I still, Mr. Mayor, I still would like to make this perfectly clear. I had not received a call for the
Understand.
second proposal, these
Okay.
that were handed to me today.
Okay.
Was it-
I received calls and were talked to personally from the first one.
Okay.
Well, to Ms. Hiller,
We will discuss
That's it.
those items when we get to the agenda. The agenda vote is to change the agenda to put these under item D. I have a motion on the floor and a second. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
nay.
And aye. Motion passes. Okay. The agenda is amended to include other charter changes for consideration under item D. Okay. Any other changes to the agenda?
I'd like to add board and commission reports. I guess would be under,
Closed session?
no, it's not, no, these are just reports.
They would
Oh,
be-
reports, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
E will be reports on boards and commissions. Okay. I have a motion to add reports on boards and commissions under section E, under 2E. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
You need a second? Second.
Second, sorry. I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. All right, you can have a discussion.
You
if
want
need it,
discussion?
Sure.
I don't have any, just
Don't
want
have
to
anything.
ask.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
but- Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a motion, if I could, please, to have Aaron keep the time of people talking so we can abide by the rules? We all get a little bit too hung up in what we're doing, so if that would be all right, as a motion.
Are you talking about council people? Or are you
Council
talking about-
people, citizens, the whole.
We need a timekeeper. It's easier for her to do it than for some of us.
I think so.
Okay. Next on our agenda is the minutes of the prior meeting on October the 24th. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes?
Yes, sir. I've got one on page 5,
That's under September 26th?
24th, October
Oh, I'm
24th.
sorry.
And it was talking about the solid waste. We weren't looking areas for a landfill, we were looking alternatives for solid waste. Not necessarily areas for a landfill.
Okay. Correct that to alternatives to solid waste disposal. Is that acceptable?
Yes.
Okay. Any other corrections to the minutes? We'll have a motion to adopt the minutes as amended.
So moved?
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Abstain.
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. Motion carries. The next item on our agenda is citizens' time. And I would like permission by council to amend the schedule on the agenda to bring citizens' time up after we have the introduction of our guests who may need to go home and do homework. Will you grant me that privilege?
I make a motion that we amend the agenda so that we can allow the guests to speak.
Okay, motion's there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 And aye, motion carries. Tonight, we're pleased to have with us 3 members of our community who entered a contest for Veterans Day sponsored by the VFW chapter. We have Caitlin Bernaca, who was first place in the younger division called Patriots Pen category. Michaela Bernaca, who was second place in the Voice of Democracy category. And Captain Cameron Seaton from Franklin High School's ROTC program, who's the first place winner of the Voice in Democracy. And we're also privileged to have Ricky Wright, who was named the National Citizenship Education and Teacher of the Year by the VFW. We're awfully proud of our young people and want to take every opportunity that we have to recognize and even showcase them, especially when they have been so specific in being able to speak out and write on Veterans Day. So I would like to invite these contestant winners up that they might be able to be recognized publicly, and I've asked them if they would share their essay with us and with the community. So we're really proud of you, and the Veterans Day program on Saturday was wonderful. So would you all please come up to be recognized? Please tell us, we'll have Caitlin go first. Please tell us who you are and what your school is. Pull it down. There you go.
What do I do?
Yes, ma'am.
Caitlin Vanaka and
Oh, now speak real close.
Speak right into it.
Speak real clearly, right in the microphone, so
You're
people
Very
can
close
hear
to
you.
it.
You
Okay.
okay?
You did great Saturday. You can do it again.
Caitlin Vanaka and I go to Southampton.
All right, now pull your microphone to you because no one can hear you. Step up. There you go.
Are you proud of your country? Are you
Closer.
proud to hear the Star Spangled Banner?
Please?
Huh?
Yeah, better, so we can hear you.
Does it give you the chills or choke you up when you sing it? It does for me because I love my country. Are you proud to say the Pledge of Allegiance? A lot of my friends do not say it at school, but I believe they should because it's a pledge to our country for us to do our best to keep our country moving in the right direction from one generation to the next, and we should be proud of that. Our forefathers wrote some important documents. Some of the things in them make me proud to be an American. Thomas Jefferson, George Mason, and James Madison authored the Declaration of Independence, the Virginia Declaration of Rights, and the Bill of Rights. These documents say things like that all men are created equal, and that I have the freedom of speech and religion. Most countries in our world do not have these freedoms, and I am proud to live in a country where I do. These freedoms that we have, we didn't always have them. We had to send people from our country, men and women, to fight other nations to keep these rights and benefits that we have. A lot of people died to make sure we can keep our rights and are able to live the way we do in the United States. I am very proud of these military people that make sure I am able to go to church where I want and say what I want. I probably could not write these thoughts down like this if I lived in any other nation besides the USA. I am very proud of my country's veterans and military people, which is why I helped my dad hand out Buddy Poppies on Veterans Day. I have been to many places in the United States, Colorado, New York, and Mississippi, and have met all kinds of Americans. I am proud to be one of them. I am proud to be an American and love my country.
Thank you, Caitlin.
My name is Michaela Bernaco, and I go to Southampton High School. I believe there is pride when you serve in the military. If you go into the military, you have to have patriotism. Patriotism meaning that you love your country. I believe if you go into the military, you love your country. My opinion on serving in the military is that the military does good for our country, but others might not feel the same way. Some people think that the military is bad because you are being trained to fight and kill in wars. I can see how some people feel like that, but I also understand that without our military, we would almost be nowhere near where we are today. The military does not just fight and kill. The military ensures that we have a free place to live. It marks how far we've gotten into this world on our own. It shows the gratitude and love we have for our country. I believe if you are in the military, you have to have at least a little ounce of pride. Not just pride for having a well-respected job, not just pride for having people look up to you, but pride for doing what's right, saving lives, and making a good, free, and loving country for all of us to live in. As I said before, if you go into the military, you must love your country. Loving your country as in caring and giving to what you believe in and feel is right. You shouldn't be put down by what anybody says. If you love your country, show it. So is there pride in serving in our military? The question has a yes and no answer. It is yes because you are in an organization that is aiming to serve our countries and sometimes or indirectly others. Some people also answer with a no because to them in reality the military is used as a tool to fulfill questionable objectives. But you should have pride when you serve in the military because you should have pride in everything or anything you do. A few quotes from some of our military leaders about pride and service. The willingness with which our young people are likely to serve in any war, no matter how justified, shall be directly proportional as to how they perceive the veterans of earlier wars were treated and appreciated by their nation. General George Washington. Abandon your animosities and make your sons Americans. General Robert E. Lee. I can imagine a no more rewarding career, and any man who may be asked in this century what he did to make his life worthwhile, I think correspond with a good deal of pride and satisfaction. I served in the United States Navy, President John F. Kennedy. I find these quotes still are true today because today we have so many people in the military with pride in what they are doing. I don't think it matters whether you're white, black, female, male, or even gay. You should be allowed to express your love for your country by serving in the military. I'm not in the military, but I am proud of the people who are, such as my father, his friends, and shipmates.
Thank you.
My name is Cameron Seddon, and I go to Franklin High School. Is there pride in serving in our military? Being in high school, I asked myself, how can I answer that question? I am too young to serve in the military. I may be in JERA OTC, but that is nothing compared to real military service. As I thought about the question, or more importantly, the answer, I decided that the best place to start was my father, who encouraged me to talk to the members of the local VFW post to ask veterans that have served in various conflicts and wars. As I sat and talked to these members, I was amazed at the variety of the answers and the detail in which they answered my questions. Even though these veterans stated that they joined for different reasons, being drafted, a better life, to leave one's home, the benefits of the military, or for the love of their country, there are many common themes I heard these veterans wanted to share. The first quality that stood out to me was the deep pride they have for the United States flag and the country it represents. This has nothing to do with the material flag or the ground for which this country encompasses. It was a representation of these items toward the people of the United States and how honored they felt to defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I walked away knowing these veterans love everything about this country, and specifically the people and the Constitution that they swore to protect. It did not matter if they served 4 or 30 years, this quality is equally shared among these Americans. With the many different reasons that they stated they joined the military, it is easy to determine that this was either gained or strengthened throughout their military experience. I could easily feel that their pride runs deep in their bones, and many would still stand up and fight to protect this country if given the chance. These veterans, along with many other Americans, are proud of the people who served before them during their time and the service members that are currently serving. They discussed with me that the military uniform is a direct representation of all these individuals. They wore their uniform with pride and are proud of any service member who wears a uniform, regardless of the military branch. We discussed history and how they felt when they wore a United States military uniform, and how they would never disgrace the uniform that so many others have lost their lives wearing. They made it clear to me that all Americans should walk over and shake the hand of a military member and thank them for their service. Some talked about how they wished they were treated this way on returning home, but are very proud that their America did learn from history and currently treat their service members the way they should always be treated, with respect. Additionally, I heard about the experiences that are shared among military members and how unique they are compared to civilian life. These experiences create a strong bond that is not seen among other groups, lasting friendships. Veterans are proud of the jobs they performed in the military, and they understand how their role and others played a major part in defending democracy throughout time. During world wars, conflicts, and peacetime, these military members did their job relying on others to perform theirs, sometimes in life or death circumstances. This country is young compared to many others of the world, but our military is a strong symbol of the people that make up the United States of America. Our military history is robust in leadership and fighting capabilities. These forces are respected throughout the world, and any member of the United States military is proud of being part of this global force to protect democracy. Many military service members have sacrificed their lives for this cause, and all military members have a sense of pride representing these heroes. As I discussed this topic with these veterans, I could feel the pride in all of them. I didn't need to hear their answers. The spark in their eye, the smirk on their face, posture changing, and the tone of their voice answered all my questions. When you ask, is there pride in serving in our military? Yes, definitely. It's not just individual pride that is felt, but an entire nation, grateful for the sacrifices the military makes for their freedoms. I am proud of all who have served and those who are currently serving.
I wish we had a camera so we could capture all of that. Is any family member have a camera? Would you please have them come up and stand in front of the seal together and take their picture? I think it's a proud moment for our students. Ricky, would you please join them? I want to recognize you. Rick is a Teacher of the Year as it relates to the citizenship. He teaches 8th grade civics, government, and economics at SP Morton, and I'm sorry, JP King. And yes, and was recognized by recommendations as the Teacher of the Year by parents and others who wrote on their behalf. Congratulations. He'll be back.
Good job.
We thank you all for your commitment and for your patriotism. The next item on our agenda is citizens' time, and we have several people who signed up to speak. First is Anthony King.
My name is Anthony King. I reside at 108 Kings Lane. I'm here representing the Franklin Sportsman Association in regards to the Woodmen of the World, but tax exempt. I would like to know if this passes, would you be setting a precedent for all of the charitable organizations in the city of Franklin? Would it be that anything different we have to do in order to get a tax exempt from the city of Franklin? What would we have to do? Because we also are a charitable organization with our communities and things. I wanted to hear more about the Woodmen of the World, but they coming after, I see. So I'm just here representing the Franklin Sportsmen, and if we let one become exempt, I think we have to do it for the rest of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan Drury. Great. See the same, Mr. Drury.
Mr. Mayor and council members, I'm here tonight to address a water bill issue that I have with one of my properties on 303 Bogart Street in Franklin, Virginia. For some reason, because it's a rental property and it has 1 meter and 1 sewer line coming from it, but it's 2 apartments, they're charging them a $16.91 usage fee on top of the regular charges that I received, because I actually had the bill sent to me, and I was assuming I was paying the entire bill until one of the people that were renting from me told me, look, I have a bill for sewer charges, and I was like, that can't quite be possible because I'm paying all that. This is the first time it was ever brought to my attention, but it seems that I'm paying sewer and then they're paying $16.91 each, and we only have 1 meter. Now I know that the water that's going through that meter, no more water can go into the sewer than is going through the meter. So I don't understand how I'm getting charged that extra $16.91 for both of these tenants.
Okay. We'll have Ms. Fleming check on that with the billing department and get back to you directly.
Right. I've talked to the billing department, and they tell me that they just have to pay it, and I don't see how this is legal. I mean, if I had a business of my own and I was supplying water and sewer to a community, there's no way in the world I could charge them double charges.
Right.
And that's basically, well, if I could present this to you.
Yes, please.
This is my bill, and it just so happens it's the same usage as that apartment.
Okay.
And you can look there and see the difference in the bill as far as the water and the sewer is concerned.
Okay.
And it's
Okay.
the same meter.
Okay. I'll get Ms. Fleming to look into that and get your response back. That's a valid question.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Dr. Johnson?
Yes, Mr.
You may? That's fine, thank you. Mr. Cannon? Okay. Mr. McClenny? Okay, that's fine. That concludes our citizen time. Thank you all for adjusting to that. Please remind me. Try to make a note of that so I don't forget you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
that's what Mr. Drury didn't get to sign up for, that agenda item, the agenda item. So you want to put his name for that subject?
I'm sorry, what, did he?
That's what he didn't get to sign up for. He wanted to address that also.
The city charter?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'll include that. Okay. I had him down. I didn't know whether that was the reason. Next item on our agenda is Western Tidewater presentation.
Good evening.
Greetings.
My name is Diana Conco. I'm a registered nurse, and I'm on the board of the Western Tidewater Free Clinic. I thank you for the opportunity to talk to you tonight about the Free Clinic. We've had an exciting year of growth and services, and I'd like to share our news with you. Our mission is to provide quality, non-emergency health care to residents of Western Tidewater who cannot afford it otherwise. We are fortunate to have collaborative relationships with many local health care providers, social service agencies, and funders as we work together to improve the health of individuals and to create a healthier community. This would not be possible without the support of many individuals and organizations that provide guidance, financial support, in-kind gifts, and volunteer hours. We have almost 200 volunteers who provide roughly 12,000 hours of service a year. This is equivalent to having 6 full-time employees. The number of patients we serve has grown each year since the clinic opened in 2007. The need for care, however, continues to outpace our ability to provide services. Last year, we saw a total of 1,237 distinct patients, and already this year we have seen 1,201 distinct patients. Of those, 93 are from Franklin, and they have made 1,063 visits to the clinic this year. This compares with 2007, when we had 44 patients from Franklin. 2008, we had 57. 2009, 75. So the numbers for Franklin are growing as well as all the other numbers. To be a patient at the clinic, an individual must be between the ages of 19 and 64, live in the Western Tidewater service area, have no health insurance, and live at or below 200% of the federal poverty level, which is $44,100 for a family of 4. However, more than 85% of our patients live at or below 150% of the poverty line, which is $33,075 a year for a family of 4. Approximately 45% of our patients have part-time or full-time employment but cannot afford to pay for health insurance or medical expenses. Our employment percent had actually been higher in previous years, but unemployment has affected everybody. Approximately 96% of our patients have chronic diseases such as diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease. Before coming to the free clinic, they were just getting by, and when they got ill, they went to the emergency room, which is the most expensive way to deliver health care. Since the last time we shared with you, we have added a comprehensive women's health program that includes screening and follow-up for breast and cervical cancer, education, and referrals to our healthcare partners in the community. More than 500 women have received these services in the past year. And I want to share a story with you that involves Dr. Sharon Sheffield of Franklin. We recently treated a 28-year-old patient who had 2 abnormal Pap results and a low-grade lesion. A biopsy by Dr. Sheffield revealed that the lesion was in fact a high-grade lesion, meaning it was just a step below being considered cancer. Now remember, this patient's only 28. Because we were able to get the biopsy done on site and get a diagnosis, the patient was enrolled in a state program called Every Woman's Life and receives Medicaid and is followed by an oncologist now. Now, had this not happened, she may have ended up with a hysterectomy at the young age of 28. So we're grateful to Dr. Sheffield for volunteering with us. The clinic helps patients apply for free medications from pharmaceutical companies. In the 4 years since we opened, our patients have received over $7 million of medication. These medications are critical for the management of chronic illness. We recently established an on-site pharmacy that has a variety of commonly prescribed medications that patients have access to while they wait for their prescriptions to arrive by mail. Our dental program continues to grow, and we have dental service on site. We recently participated in a United Way event called Day of Caring, where we had several local dentists volunteer their time to provide an all-day dental clinic, and we saw 48 of our patients that day. We continue to work with the community to make healthcare accessible to those who need it most. We thank you for your time and your support of the clinic. Your partnership is critical to our work, and we appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, Ms. Conco?
Yes.
Let me take
Ms.
this.
McMore,
Yes, thank you.
you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, sir. I would just like to commend you and give a hearty thank you, because it seems we've got a double bang for our buck in Dr. Conco and you. You've hit the ground running, and you have chosen to support an organization that certainly the people need your help and appreciate, I'm sure, all that you're doing for our community. And I tell you with the biggest smile that I can muster, thank you so much for coming to our community and offering such a wonderful hand to the people who need help.
Thank you. We're very glad to be here.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a
Yes, you
question?
may. Ms. Conco?
Oh,
Question?
That's all right.
There's interest.
Do you know how your patients are transported to the clinic?
Yes, we have a collaborative relationship with the Southeastern Virginia Senior Services, but we are also monitoring that and looking for other ways as well, hoping maybe we could, get involved with churches or whatever. We just continue to monitor that. We just met for our strategic plan for the next year, and we talked about that.
Thank you.
If there's anything,
Other question?
I would just like to say that if there's anything that we, or my as a council representative from Ward 3, if there's anything that we can do to help your organization, please feel free to let us know. I certainly would like to be able to help any way I can, as long as I'm here.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. The next on our agenda is the State of the College by Mrs. Conco's husband.
I'm the other Dr. Conco, actually, and wasn't that a lovely presentation before me? But good evening. Just a joy to be here. And I was here about a year ago and gave you the State of the College, so I'm here to tell you what's been happening 1 year later. And Aaron's agreed to kind of help me with the PowerPoint, and we'll go right into it. I have been here a year, so when I was here before, I was the new president, and I've been here over about 16 months. I'm the relatively new president. If you remember the picture I showed last time, was sort of me like a deer with glazed eyes, because the organization was complex, the service region was complex, and certainly our mission was. But very quickly, things came rapidly, and we made a lot of improvements that I'm anxious to share with you. Everything we did, though, we remembered what our mission was. Paulding Camp Community College provides diverse learning opportunities to enhance the quality of life for students and for our community. We celebrated our 40-year anniversary. We started serving students in 1971. Many of you were part of the celebration, the picnic, the presidential inauguration. We did a lot of displays. We did a lot of history displays. And I learned, and maybe some of you were reminded, of the discussion about where to put this new community college back in the late 60s and in 1970. Many people talked about Suffolk, Nansemond County, Isle of Wight, or perhaps even Franklin. The city leaders at that time fought hard to have it in Franklin. And I know that you all thought that that was a good fight, and their promise to support the community college was one that you share as well. We're one of 23 community colleges in the Commonwealth of Virginia on 40 campuses. Our service region, again, is cities of Franklin and Suffolk and the counties of Isle of Wight and Southampton. We've had record enrollment. In fact, we're the fastest growing of the 23 community colleges, percentage-wise. We grew over 11%. And our own Tidewater News recognized us as a regional jewel. The red line represents our enrollment, and our enrollment is growing and growing fast. We'll serve over 2,600 students this year, which is a record by far. Didn't think we could break last year's record enrollment in growth, but we are. The blue line, unfortunately, represents the state support that we get in our budget. And like you, we face those budget concerns and a dwindling state support. At the same time, we have an increasing enrollment. Number of employees, we have 159 employees. We're beginning to grow that, but unfortunately, it's more part-time growth and less full-time employment as we struggle to balance our budget. We serve students of all age ranges. The blue is 17 and younger. The next is 18, 19, so recent high school graduates. But all age range is represented by Paul DeCamp Community College. You notice the pink, 13%. That is students in their 40s going to Paul DeCamp. Gender, we serve almost twice as many females as males. So I tell folks, if you have a young son looking for a mate, community college is a good place to be. Financial aid, about a little over half of our students receive some form of financial aid, and that's pretty consistent across all our service region. Our graduation rates and awards every year continue to climb, so we continue to be successful. And percentage-wise, the red line is the average of the Virginia Community College system, and the blue line is Paul DeCamp. So we graduate at a higher percentage than the average. Our degrees and certificates, the most popular is certainly general studies, almost 300 students here to get an associate's degree with the main purpose to transfer to a four-year institution. Business administration, science, and education. And for applied science degrees, nursing is our largest, with management and criminal justice close behind. Where our students come from, 15% come from the city of Franklin, almost twice as many, 30% come from the city of Suffolk, and the other is represented there in that wheel. That is why in our budget request that we make, Suffolk pays about twice as much. That budget formula is based on enrollment, population, and property values. Citizens that we serve, in 2006 it was 267. Last fall it was 362. So we continue to grow. Citizens of Franklin, when they go to college, an overwhelming 48% go to Paul DeCamp as their college. Next is ODU and TCC that you'll see. Dual enrollment, all our areas are represented with dual enrollment except Isle of Wight. And with the new school superintendent, we will be doing dual enrollment, I'm sure, in that locality. But Franklin High School, you see 31 students are involved in dual enrollment, which is where as a high school student, you can take a class that counts both for your high school graduation and for college credit. A growing program. That program is all across the nation, certainly all across the Commonwealth and all across our service region. School systems support that at different amounts, again, all across the nation, all across the Commonwealth, and all across our service region. This is a recent survey. Franklin City Public Schools supports dual enrollment. It pays for up to 2 courses, and after that, the parent pays. Where you see Isle of Wight Academy is about 45 and 55 split. In Suffolk, the parents pay all the tuition. In Southampton County, it's about a 50-50 split. So we're about like the rest of the Commonwealth and the rest of the nation. Depends on the school system, depends on their resources. We still struggle and work with the high schools and the middle schools about students who first come to us right out of high school. How many are not college ready? All across the nation, that is an issue. With an average of about 50% have to go in remedial math or remedial English. They're not college ready. The real shame in that is most of the students don't know it. They come, they take the test to see if they're college ready, and they do poorly. And then they're in developmental math or English. And that's a surprise, and that is the real deficiency that we must work on. And we are working with school superintendents on that. We have a Virginia Wizard, a website that we encourage young people and really anybody who's thinking about continuing their education to go to. That website contains career explorations, career tests, aptitude tests, resume and interview tips. All our career coaches work with the Virginia Wizard. We have a career coach, a Paulding Camp Community College employee in every high school in our service region. And that career coach is there to work with the student to answer the question, what's next? What do I do after high school? Our chancellor says that the most popular major for us is, I don't know. And the career coach is there to help answer those questions. And we're proud and pleased to put them in our high schools. But the Wizard will explore the college, the majors, all colleges, all majors, all forms of financial aid. And again, the fastest growing career. So we encourage all students to go there. Now, real quickly, I'll do some coming attractions or what's on the horizon for Paulding Camp. We are adding full-time faculty. We're excited about that because of our enrollment growth, we need a core number of full-time faculty. So we're currently recruiting a full-time faculty member in nursing and a full-time faculty member in speech. And we're real happy with that. We have new partnerships with ODU and Norfolk State University. ODU, you can finish your bachelor's degrees while on campus at Franklin or Suffolk. You don't have to travel. Most of this is through computers, but we provide counselors and technicians to help that transition so you can continue and go for that bachelor's degree right here in Franklin. With Norfolk State, we signed an agreement last week called the Passport Agreement. You're a student at Paulding Camp. You know you want to go to Norfolk State to transfer very early on. We get you a Spartan card. You can get on Norfolk campus. You can use their library. You can go to their football games. You can start to feel part of that campus as you finish up your prerequisites at Paulding Camp. We do shared distance learning with Northern Virginia Community College through Distance Ed. Again, here in Franklin, you can sign up and take Introduction to Japanese, and take Chinese, business ethics, law, courses that are offered through Northern Virginia but come through Paulding Camp. So we're excited about that. As many of you know, Barnes & Noble took over our bookstores on October 1st. They're currently in a remodeling, and you're going to see a lot of excitement by that. With Barnes & Noble, not only do you sell new textbooks, but we sell much more used textbooks, which saves money for the student. They rent textbooks, which saves money to the student, and they can get e-textbooks, electronic textbooks, which saves money to the student. So it's all about lowering those costs of textbooks to students. We have new classroom furniture and paint that we're excited about. Again, our strategic plan, which you can see on our website. Next there. We're in Achieving the Dream membership, which is all about data collection and using data to make all the decisions for the college. And you know how important data and accountability is, so we're a member of that august group. We have an iPad 2 project. I know you all do too. But over this summer, we gave iPad 2s to all the full-time faculty and many of the administrators. Implementing iPad 2s, that technology into the teaching and learning and administrative role. We had Apple Academy. People from Apple came down and taught our faculty and administrators how to use that device and it's quite exciting, as you all know. We're remodeling our libraries, both in Franklin and Suffolk. Libraries are different. People don't go to the library that much anymore to pull a book off the shelf. They're there for the information they can get digitally, for the technology that they can get, for small study groups. So we're remodeling our libraries to accommodate that. And then our quality enhancement plan, part of our accreditation is all about success without boundaries, to be sure that that distance learning education is high quality. And again, the data to prove that and the training for folks. We're designing a new website, which will be launched in February, so be on the outlook for that. It's going to be very dynamic. And our mission to put more community into Paul DeCamp Community College. New student activity hours for students. We've got an increase in student clubs and organizations. We've hired a students activity coordinator. We have movie nights, as many of you have partaken in. We have community classes, and we have service learning projects. Almost all our clubs are doing something in service learning. Serving at a nursing home or a food pantry, fixing up a habitat house, doing something, and you'd be proud of them. You all know about our Workforce Development Center and how much use we get out of that, but it's there for customized training, open enrollment courses and seminars, business startup, consulting, coaching, facilities, job profiling, and more. And we do community classes. We do everything from Zumba to line dancing to digital photography to how to use your iPad 2 classes. So excited about that. And we're all about creating our future. And again, we're in a major gifts campaign, raising money to expand our academic and workforce programs, student scholarships, and instructional technology. But you know, it's all about students is what we are. I've shown you a lot of charts and graphs, but we're about students, about Zachary Gerganis from Franklin, recipient of the Scott Carr Commonwealth Legacy Scholarship. He's president of our Phi Theta Kappa. He's a presidential ambassador, and his goal is to go to VMI to study civil engineering. Next is Anthony Holloway, majoring in business and general studies. He's an active volunteer in the STOP organization. He wants to pursue a career teaching children. He's received the Higher Education Teacher Scholarship. He's a Senate member of our Student Government Association. Quickly, Raquel Newsom of Franklin, education major. She's involved in student activities, student support services, and student government. Her goal is to teach at Franklin City Public Schools after graduation. Next, Kimberly Holmes of Franklin. She's Phi Theta Kappa. She's vice president. She's in charge of our Community Service Committee. She represented us at the Virginia General Assembly. She'll graduate in May with dual degrees in criminal justice, police science, corrections. She's got an additional certificate in religious studies. And Melissa Reed of Franklin. Melissa's a student presidential ambassador, majoring in education. She wants to transfer to Norfolk Southern, earn a bachelor's degree. She's also a scholarship winner. And I could go on and on. At the end of every year when students graduate, we give them a survey. We say, tell us something about Paul DeCamp Community College. Tell us what it's like. Here's how they answer the survey. Paul DeCamp is like the Harvard of Hampton Roads. I like that. Paul DeCamp is like a first date. You don't know the person, but later you begin to fall in love. I like this one. Paul DeCamp's like Sunday dinner. Comforting and nourishing, good for the mind, body, and soul. Paul DeCamp's like an old Chevy truck. Not too complicated or expensive, very reliable, and a valuable tool that prepares you for work. Lastly, the last one, Paul DeCamp is a stairway leading to a better future. Everything we do, we remember our mission and our reason for being.
Excuse me, but how many did you pay to give those?
None, not at all. But I was selective of the several hundred we got. That's my report. That's the state of the college. The college is doing well. It's serving your citizens. We're cutting edge. We're data controlled. We're accountable. We appreciate your support. You'll see our budget request in the future. Hope you'll look on it favorably. I appreciate the work of those who came before you to have the campus here in Franklin. And I know that you're proud of that as well. Any questions?
I have a question.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
You mentioned the fact that, I'm sorry, I have a question. You mentioned the fact that many of the students, or a large number of students, have to go into remediation when they come to college because they're not ready. And you mentioned you're working with the superintendent. One of the problems seems to be the emphasis is on SOLs, but is there any significant work being done for the high school to know what they need to know to be able to perform at the college level and get them prepared?
We give a report to each of the school superintendents in our service region about our incoming students and the success rate of the students that come out of those high schools. We also talk about testing earlier. We have a Compass test. We now have a Virginia placement test. So the earlier that we can test students to give them a clue to some of their weaknesses, we feel the better off that they will do. One of the redesigning that we've done with developmental studies is to try to zero in exactly on a student's weakness. Let's say math, for instance. Before they take the test, if they didn't score high enough for college level work, they were put in a remedial class, 5 credit hours, semester long, that taught all of math. Now, with the new test, we will zero in. Maybe it's just fractions that is their difficulty. And we'll have a short, direct course just on fractions. They can pass everything else. We'll give them that short course on fractions and then move them along. Maybe it's decimals. Again, short course on decimals, move them along. We know that the sooner we get them into college level work, the sooner that they are prepared and enter, the more successful they'll be. Because they come and they think they're college ready and then they're disappointed. It takes longer. It's more expensive because they're not ready, and they drop out. They get discouraged. So our goal is to make that process faster. Our goal is to test them earlier, work with the school systems, try to identify those weaknesses, and then to work on them.
My last question is the Greganos boy wants to transfer to VMI after 2 years. Does that get him out of the rat line at VMI?
Well, I don't know about that. But as you know, one of the major changes in community college life now is that we have guaranteed transfer. When you take English 101 with us, it is guaranteed to transfer to any of the 4-year schools. Guaranteed. No ifs, no questions, guaranteed. When you take a 2-year course of study with us and you file the checklist or whatever that college has, you're guaranteed admission. So when you come to Paul DeCamp Community College, any of the community colleges in Virginia, follow that criteria, follow that curriculum, get that 2-year graduate, you're guaranteed into College of William & Mary, guaranteed into Virginia Tech, guaranteed into James Madison. And the comfort of that guarantee and the comfort of that savings of 2 years of a community college before you got to that Virginia Tech or other school is just amazing. And very thankful.
With that guarantee, is there a certain grade level requirement that you have to
meet? Every senior college would make that determination. And that's on that Virginia Wizard. So if you're going to the College of William & Mary, if that's your goal, then they will give you the list of classes to take, and they'll give you the minimum GPA to meet that guarantee. You go to another school, that GPA could be different, could be higher, could be lower. But you know that up front. You know it's on the Virginia Wizard. So you can plan as a family your costs of school and college.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yes, Dr. Conco, is it outside the preview of community colleges in this new era or whatever to shy away from vocational trainings? Because one of my biggest concerns for the citizens are we need jobs with the closure of IP. And do you foresee the addition of more vocations where people can become self-employed in lieu of, I got a degree, but I can't find a job. Yeah. But if we teach trades, we will be able to, take care of yourself, be a plumber, be a carpenter or contractor. So do you foresee the college adding more vocational programs in the future?
Certainly, it's a core of our mission is career technical studies, vocations, whether it be electricity, nursing, HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, welding. We teach all those, and those are job skills that are higher. Probably the two categories that our students get hired the quickest at is nursing and welding. And right behind that is HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. So yeah, those careers are important to us, are important to our citizens. So we will continue to add. We're now doing warehousing and distribution. Because again, QVC and Ace Hardware and others who are coming into our area with the port opening, the whole idea of moving goods in a huge warehouse is a skill. And employers like that, they come from the community college, knowing those basics in forklift and logistics, they make a better employer and a long-term employee.
I was thinking in terms, one time the school offered an automotive program. And if you get your training and certificate in warehousing, you're still at the mercy of how many jobs that particular warehouse is going to provide. Opposed to if you are trained in mechanics, you might can earn a living for yourself, or in plumbing, for instance. Opposed to nurses, fortunately, that's a high demand field. We can always employ at hospitals and under doctors. But many of the fields, you're dependent upon employers in order to hire you with that training. And I was hoping that perhaps somewhere in the horizon we can put some more emphasis on skills that a person can become more independent with, so that we can fill this job void that we seem to have.
Well, certainly HVAC is one where a lot of entrepreneurs will start their own business after having a few years experience and working with a clientele. You know, we teach electricity, and that's another trade where you can be an entrepreneur and start your own business. We teach industrial technology. So yeah, we're always on the lookout to meet the demands. I mean, we're your community college. So if this community or some trade is not being addressed, well, that's what we want to look at. But again, that employability is right. We did a study a few years ago about dental assistant that we thought, well, that might be a career where there'd be a lot of employability and we could train. And well, there was about 6 or 8 dental assistant jobs opening in the whole Tidewater area. Well, you teach that one class, then what? So again, we look for ones that we can sustain. That's also a part. But again, computers, we teach a lot in computer science, and a lot of those go to be entrepreneurs, whether it be a webmaster or computer repair or something like that.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to commend you for the job you've done as you've come on to Paul D in this first year. You've made significant changes, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. It's a great place to work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is the public hearing concerning the request by Woodmen of the World for tax exemption. Ms. Fleming, do we have a staff person to report on that?
There is a staff person here, and that's our Commissioner of the Revenue. Brenda is here, and I think Mr. Early is with her. What you have scheduled tonight is a public hearing. We did get a request, which I passed on to Brenda for some information. We had put that at your places. Brenda's here and ready to answer any questions you may have, which you think may facilitate the public hearing, which is scheduled. You recall that this item has been before you, and we received your permission to have the public hearing. If there are questions, Brenda will answer.
Well, is there any presentation that needs to be made besides just holding the public? Is there anybody prepared to make a presentation?
No, I think Brenda's made that presentation to you before. You did ask for some additional information, and it's been both distributed in your packet and is at your place tonight.
Right.
But we have no presentation, but we can answer questions.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. King stated that the Franklin Sportsmen's Association would also be a charitable organization, and it isn't listed up here.
I think Ms. Rickman can answer that for you.
Actually, all he would have to do would be come and get the guidelines for the the exemption, and they would just have to see if they qualify.
I guess the question is, maybe if he is not listed here, are there others in the community that might qualify that are not listed?
They very well could be.
Yes.
Okay, is this just a list that you were aware of?
It's the list of, the ones that are listed here on what Ms. Johnson asked about was, these are the tax exempt parcels that are under the other designation that are on the tax exempt part to the real estate book.
Are they already tax exempt?
These are already tax exempt, except for Woodman of the World.
Okay, so that's what this shows.
Oh, so I was trying to find out what others would possibly be added to this and add to the financial impact, and what that impact would be.
I wouldn't
I
know
don't think
unless
we
they
know that.
applied.
There are others that may qualify, as others come forward, as I've discussed with Brenda. We will have to see if they qualify.
So we
It's
can only
likely
do
that they
this
are
as they
others.
come
That's
and
correct.
request.
That's correct. And see, this all changed through the General Assembly, like my presentation earlier in 2003.
Right.
So that's really what has made the change. Now, before 2003, they had to go to the General Assembly for the exemption. Now they come to the local governing body. This is our first one since 2003 that anybody's requested the tax exempt status.
Well, for me, I find it difficult to make an informed decision, and we don't know what may come and how it's going to impact the budget. So that's,
Okay. Let's save, and that's valid, let's save that till our
Okay.
discussion part.
all right.
Okay. I'm not sure, is there anything else that you can add? Other than you're not aware of any others unless they come forward?
Unless they come forward. And I mean, they would have to meet the criteria that is
Right.
I've provided with y'all earlier. They would have to meet every count of that, and then it is your decision whether they would be granted the tax exempt status.
I just got a question. I don't know if it's, but I recognize a lot of these, but a private cemetery can have tax exempt status.
It comes under the other category for real estate, yes.
And where is this Wren, George, and Adley Lodge on South Street?
I don't know exactly where that is, but it's a Masonic lodge on South Street. I do know that.
At the end of South.
The one at the end on the right?
I think so.
So where's the Masonic Lodge? This other one is
Next
listed.
to 50th.
That's on Main Street, I think.
That's down on Main Street. Okay, thank you.
I didn't hear his question. Did you answer where the private cemetery was? Is that a part of that question?
No, and it's, you can see it's only valued at $100. It's in somebody's field or somewhere,
So that has to be.
I can't answer.
Could be in our field. We got
it
two of
could
them in our
be.
field. Could be. Yeah, I mean, it may be there.
Could be.
Yeah, we don't own it. If somebody else owns a piece of property, it's a little circle. Okay.
Church does, right?
Thank you, Brenda. Okay, we've had this information presented to us before. We have additional information here. I'll now open the public comment phase of our public hearing and invite anyone who would like to speak on this issue to please come forward. Please state your name and who you represent, where you live, and your comment.
To Mayor Council, Vice Mayor Johnson, to the City Council. This issue is very important with the budget, and as Vice Mayor Johnson has said, it needs to be researched, basically. The other nonprofit organizations need to be aware that they have the opportunity to sign up with the local government because it can be beneficial to the community as well. So we need to basically make this aware to the public if it's not to the public. I doubt many individuals know about the change in the General Assembly from the General Assembly to the local government. So if you could put that on the website, television, or the newspaper, I think that would give some credence to basically knowledge of, just like Mr. King said, the Sportsman's Club has been around for a long time. And it's a nonprofit organization that does a lot of good work in the community, as well as the Woodmans of the world, which I think all those organizations deserve to be tax exempt. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak? If there are none, I declare the public speaking phase of the hearing closed and open the hearing to comments from council.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me. City Attorney reminds me that in September, when this subject came before you, Brenda prepared a report which she gave to you, and in that report are various pieces of information, but one is the criteria, which there are 8 for people, for organizations to qualify for this tax exemption. The last one, number 8, is rather broad. It says, any other criteria, facts, and circumstances that the governing body deems pertinent to the adoption of such ordinance. But Brenda did give this information to you before. We didn't reproduce it to give to you again, and you can't call it up on your iPad.
I wish we'd have had that for consideration for this evening. That would have been helpful.
Well, may I ask a question
You may.
about who developed the criteria? Is this something you got from the state model, or?
Oh, that's true. It does come from the state code. It's actually in 58.13651. But these tax exempt organizations have to own real estate. Everybody's not going to own real estate. The Rotary Club owns no real estate. The Kiwanis Club doesn't own real estate. So organizations that you think may request this don't own anything in the city of Franklin. They meet in other buildings that are already here, restaurants or churches or whatever. Now, the Sportsman Club may, but if they didn't fall into all of the categories, then you would have that option to not exempt them. They would have to meet all of them, not just part of them, but all of them.
From your evaluation, does the Woodman of the World meet all the qualifications?
Yes, sir.
I think the Sportsman's Club, some may know better than I do, but they own.
Yes,
that
they
building,
own.
Yeah.
They own their building, that's true.
Mr. Mayor, can I have the floor?
Yes, you may.
I would like to just say, since you've opened it up to council members, I don't think that the woodsmen should be held up from having their exempt status if they meet the criteria, because others aren't aware that they need to apply to the local government. I agree with the citizen who said we need to make that information available on our website or however we can, particularly if we know there is a nonprofit organization. I don't think it might be too expensive to send notices to them, alerting them, are you aware you may be eligible if you'd like to come in to apply? But I don't think we should hold the woodsmen up. But I would like to add the caveat is I don't want to see someone like the Sportsmen who come behind, or any other organization that comes behind and applies for this status, to be denied if they meet the same criteria that the Woodsmen of America met. So I would hate to see it be good for one and not for others, but I don't want to hold their exemption up just because we don't know if the people are going to hit us with floodgates. I think that we should grant it.
Did I understand you that we can add our own criteria?
We can? Okay.
One of the concerns that I think everybody around the table has is the impact of the budget. And one of the things that we might want to consider going forward is that any future, kind of like Councilman McLemore, we can deal with this one because we know what it is, but any future ones we have to figure out the timing, and they don't become effective until we have time to plan it into our budget. In other words, they couldn't come now, that would make a request if it was going to impact our budget. So we need to be able to put some timelines that when it has to be done or it has to be held over to the next budget cycle,
Would be
just so.
effective on a
Yeah.
certain date, like July 1.
Right.
If you're in the middle of a budget year.
Yeah, and I don't know what the timing is because we got to know about it in the budget. July 1 may be too late, so you may have to do it earlier when we're doing the budget process. Haven't said, it was just sitting here when I was getting this, I was thinking about what what we can do, and I don't, like I said, I don't want to hold things up, and I don't want to keep people from getting what they're entitled to, but at the same time, we need to make sure we protect all the citizens.
Another question I have is,
I'm sorry?
Is it entitlement? I'm sorry.
No, just, another question I have is, technically speaking, if we were to deny, could they then not go to the General Assembly and still make application?
No, they cannot any longer.
That has been pushed down to the local level, period.
Exactly.
Okay. But the process was in place for people to go to the General Assembly. This is to make it easier
Right.
on a local basis.
Prior to 2003.
Okay. I think one of the stipulations, and I just would like clarity from either Mr. Early or Mr. Knight, one of the stipulations is that it has to be nonprofit and not for business purpose. And the question that I would have is there any business activity that's housed in that building, such as an insurance agent or something of that nature? Would one of you be able to respond to that?
My name is Bill Early, Mr. Council and council members. There is an office of one representative, and we try to capture the cost of electricity and heat for the building. So it is a minimum amount. And to answer your question, yes, there is, but it is for the purpose of furthering the fraternal aspect of the building we have and the facilities that we have. That is open to members and their activities. And once in a while, somebody will request a family get-together, like at Thanksgiving or Christmas or something. So I'd like to make one statement here for clarification that the Commissioner of Revenue has made. Had we gone to if we had known this, the possibility, since we owned the property since 1948, we have been a charter member of the Woodmen of the World since 1901, over 100 years, here doing this for the community. And Brother Mayor, you probably recall I guess a certificate of appreciation or something about the time of the flood or something. Mm-hmm. That was the time that we rented the building. For those who may not know, it was purchased back in the 40s. Then Kentucky Fried Chicken come along. They wanted it was location. So that was picked as a prime location for, and some of you may remember that. Then it stood, well, I was not here at that time, but there was 3 or 4 turnover of leases for the Kentucky Fried Chicken. Okay, well that passed, and I think that was out of the owner or the lease renter was from, I think he was from Williamsburg, I think.
When did it become your building and it was not leased anymore?
The flood.
Okay.
The flood.
So since 1999, you all have not leased the building?
No.
Okay. And it's been used for fraternal purposes?
Right.
Okay.
Now, had we gone to the state legislature or made our petition then, the 10 requirements as stated in the code that was referenced here, 5831-1-3651, which everybody had a copy of that and the response to the request that we made back in July. Mm-hmm. So we thought that, and besides, there were other lodges in the state that had already petitioned the state for this. And that was a matter of, like you were saying, meeting the requirements of the code. And there are, I think, about 8 or 9 different criteria which, according to the Commissioner of Revenue, were met. And so, does that answer your question?
It does. It does.
A little background on what we're doing and what's involved.
Yep, it does. Thank you.
So we do prayerfully request that this be given your attention and voted to be tax exempt.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
How much tax do y'all pay a year?
I think this past year would be $2,200, and it's stated on the.
I see. I'm sorry.
On this sheet here that was given to you by.
I got it.
Okay.
But
2238 and some.
But I think it, Mr. Mayor.
If you have a question, that's.
I've got a question, but Ms. Rickman said they meet all the criteria here to be exempt. And I think, personally, from what I've seen through the years and all, the give back that the Woodmen of the world gives back to the citizens of Franklin and other people, that we should really consider this. And I don't see why we can't give it to them.
Okay.
So,
thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Are there any other questions by anybody from Woodman or Ms.
I had one question for Mr. Light. Approximately what percentage of the building is rented? Just for clarification.
There is about over
5%, 6%?
In that neighborhood, 10% plus or minus.
Do you charge for having affairs there at the place? You know, you say they could have.
Yes, we have a charge for that, just like the VFW does. When you rent their facility, they try to get the cost of the operation back.
Cost of the operation.
For that day or for the time that.
Like the utilities and the.
Yeah, now the time with this charge was when we leased it. That was when we could really do something for the community, because we had we didn't, believe it or not, I had a net lease, which paid all the insurance, taxes, and electricity, and that meant that we could make a lot of contribution back before the flood. But after the flood, it was decided that we would get out of the rent business, and we made improvements to the old Kentucky Fried Chicken silhouette to what we thought was a building that would be private to sit on 4th Avenue.
Thank you.
How often do you, in the past, how often have you had meetings there? Meetings?
We meet
No.
10 months a year.
She's asking about how many times you have events there.
Yeah.
Oh, events.
Events, yes.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
You're talking about for people who might want to rent it?
Yes.
I think we have had one time this year.
Okay.
One time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments by members of council?
The only comment that I would have, as I said, I don't see why we should hold up since they've applied, but I would hope that Ms. Johnson will alert the sportsmen being in her ward that they quickly apply and not be held to any caveats, and only because Mr. King, as a representative of the sportsmen, has come expressed that if they can get it, I think we should get it too. I would hope that if we're going to just pass it like that, then I think that we should treat everyone equally. But I don't think we should hold off on delaying giving it to the Woodsmen of the world until we find out how many people apply.
That's fine.
Question.
Yes.
When would this become effective?
I think we can decide when it becomes effective. And I think
For the Woodmen?
Mhm.
Okay.
And I would think, based on,
I really need to bring a few things to your attention about this code section, because I'm afraid at this point you don't have enough information. So if you will allow me, can I have that back, please?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. For my council members, if you want to pull it up online on your iPad, you can actually bring the Virginia Code up and read what the criteria is, so we have. Sorry.
Have you brought it up, Mr. Burgess?
I'm reading it. I'm reading it.
That should be in your packet for July.
it was in July, but I have November. I don't have July.
But we have it in front of us.
But you have it in your iPad.
I know you got it on your iPad.
But you do too.
My iPad's in my briefcase.
Oh.
You want to borrow mine?
No, ma'am. I'm gonna look. I
Uh,
don't
with-
have
with-
access
can
to
the
it.
city
Well,
attorney
the attorney
address
has a
what he
request
wanted to
for
say?
Mr. Williams?
May I try to assist y'all if you don't have it on your iPad? I'm
Please.
sure some of you would like some assistance. And I'm working off of Code Section 58.1-3651. In the first paragraph, it says that the nonprofit organization must use the property for one of the following reasons: a religious reason, a charitable reason, a patriotic, a historical, a benevolent, a cultural, it could be a public park or a playground. Those are the categories that anyone seeking an exemption has to fall in one of those categories and identify itself as falling into one of those categories. Because the next sentence says the ordinance shall state, shall is mandatory, shall state the specific use on which the exemption is based, and they must continue to utilize that same exemption. And I'm afraid what has not occurred at this point is Woodmen of the World has not given you what their charitable use, that's the wrong word. They have not identified the use that they make their property for that falls into one of these categories, and stated that they are going to continue to use it for that particular designation. That's mandatory. So you need to get some more information. Anybody making an application has to provide that information. And I'm suggesting to you that that has not been provided to you at this point.
Mr. Mayor?
Just a minute. Let's have him finish.
There are 8 different questions suggested by Code Section 58.1-3651. The first one is whether or not it's a tax-exempt organization under 501c, and I submit that Woodmen of the World is a tax-exempt organization under 501c. So there's a check mark there. Whether or not they've ever had an alcoholic beverage license, I think the information previously given by Mr. Early is that they have not ever had an alcoholic beverage license to serve alcohol at their organization. That's one of the things that you can consider. 3 and 4 deal with some of the questions that were asked earlier by Mayor Council, whether or not any director, officer, or employee is paid a compensation. And it's not just the fact of whether or not they've been paid a compensation, it's a compensation in excess of a reasonable allowance for salaries. So for instance, if a person is simply sitting in the office receiving people coming and going on a daily basis, but getting paid $100,000, then you would be able to make a judgment call as to whether or not that salary and compensation is in excess of what is a reasonable salary. So it's not a function really of whether or not there's any income being generated for someone out of there. It's a question of whether or not it is excessive. Whether or not any of the funds that are used by the organization come from donations, contributions, state or local or federal grants is a consideration that you can look at. Whether or not the organization provides services for the common good of the public. Well, I submit you have a list that the Woodmen of the World makes contributions to on a regular basis, and that probably you could get a check mark there. Whether or not they're involved in any kind of attempt to influence legislation or participate in any kind of political campaigns, and they have given you information that they do not do that sort of work. You can look at the revenue impact to the locality, which is the amount of taxes, and you can look at the last category, which Mrs. Fleming pointed out early in the discussion, is a criteria that you may want to bring up on your own as being important to you or to the city. So that's the miscellaneous category, I guess, is what I would call it. So what I'm suggesting to you, at least at this point, as your attorney, I'm suggesting to you, I don't think you have enough information about the use of the property, what category it fits into, and whether or not they're going to continue. I think there has to be a statement that they're going to continue to use that property for that purpose before you can grant anyone an exemption. That's just, that applies across the board to everybody.
Thank you. Mr. McMorro?
I do appreciate that that question wasn't asked, but I was going under the assumption, I believe someone asked the Commissioner of Revenue, did the Woodmen meet the criteria? And they said that they do. So I would think that the Commissioner of Revenue was more astute in those areas of revenue and taxes, what should be paid by businesses. So I was going by the word of the Commissioner of Revenue that they did meet the criteria to receive the tax exemption.
Okay.
So
Very good. I had a question. On item 2, it says whether a current alcohol license for serving alcohol has been issued, and the answer to that obviously is no, but does that preclude that it could not be done in the future? May one assume that that sets the stage for that not being, that you would not be able to serve alcohol?
Not at all. It is information that you can use to consider whether or not you want to grant the exemption. It's not an either-or question where if
they don't now, but they could in the future, that, and they haven't, but if they get exempt, they could.
Well, but once again, it's just a function of how much weight you want to give that criteria.
Okay.
We could literally, if they said they did serve alcohol, if that was okay with everybody on the council, we could approve it. It's just one of the criteria of measurement.
It's one of the weights that you give it.
Can we, in considering additional information as it comes forward, can we, for lack of, impose certain expectations?
No, sir. You grant an exemption, or you
up
don't
and
grant an exemption.
So you can't say it can't be used for alcohol.
No.
You can't say that. Oh, there was another one.
In B, it says, I think, wait a minute, let me read it where it says.
Mr. Williams, can you repeal an exemption? If we grant them, go on and grant them their tax exempt status, would we have the authority as a city to revoke that exemption for what we might deem to be a violation or not? Or can we put a thing in there that we reserve the right to revoke and go ahead on and grant it to them?
No, sir, I don't think so. I think the only reason for which you might be able to take an exemption away from an organization relates to what was my major concern, the first issue, They have to say that they're going to use the property for a particular purpose. And then if at some point in the future they stop using the property for that purpose, then you can take the exemption away from them. But these other matters are just criteria by which you weigh their application, and you can give it as much weight as you want or as little weight as you want. Like I was speaking about the alcohol situation. You could give that a whole lot of weight, or you could give it a very little bit of weight. The one criteria that you're talking about, Councilman McLemore, is this issue of what kind of organization are they, and the resolution would say that they're going to continue to use the property for that purposes, and if they stopped using it for that purpose, then they lose the exemption.
I.e., if they were nonprofit and they used it as they're using it now, but for some reason they decide to start renting space, then that would negate their original intent. It could be cause for revocation.
If they went back to leasing it to Kentucky Fried Chicken or whatever that organization was.
In looking at the rules, it's an ordinance. Do we pass an ordinance for each organization?
Yes, you pass a separate ordinance for each organization.
Okay.
Because each has to make its own measurement. Oh, it has to measure up.
Yes.
And it's not a blanket.
That's kind of the way it reads, is what I thought.
So if two mechanics apply for something, we got to grant each mechanic a separate ordinance in which is...
Not a mechanic.
It's a
Each
nonprofit.
person that comes forward and
seeks
seeks this exemption.
Just,
Now, you have ordinances that grant exemptions to classes of taxpayers. For instance, elderly and disabled, that's a class. They don't have to come each one for an individual. Commissioner of Revenue has an application process and she makes a decision. Land use is another classification where you have a partial exemption. Rehabilitation, renovated, or replacement structures is another one where you have an ordinance. But for this exemption, this is a state exemption that the applicant has to make a request on each case. Each applicant comes and makes a request for the passage of an ordinance that addresses its particular circumstances.
So what do we need to do tonight? I mean, we don't have an ordinance in front of us, so do we need to authorize the attorney to draft an ordinance, or, I mean, I'm not sure exactly what our next step is.
Well, once again, I don't think you have enough information before you, because there has to be a designation that they use the property for, and you have about 6 or 7 categories there, and that has to go into the ordinance. And I can't write an ordinance without knowing what is the category.
But didn't they say benevolent?
No.
Yes.
They said benevolent.
they've already cleared
Benevolent's
there
not
on
in the
the-
list.
No, it is in the list.
It's right after
Would it be
historical.
out of order
Just
to
a moment,
make a
please.
motion?
Just a minute, please.
I stand corrected.
Okay.
Benevolent has been listed as a
I
purpose.
stand corrected.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. McLemore.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt, that we grant the tax exempt status for the Woodmen of America.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I need to know what is the
Further
purpose.
discussion. All right, is it clear in the application that they have stated their purpose?
There is no application process. What was presented by Mr. Early in the past was a proposed resolution that I think had been obtained from another chapter, I guess it is. And the only thing that it says in that resolution, and I'll quote it, that such exemption from taxes will further the benevolent purpose of the organization. And that's all it says about benevolence.
So what needs to be clarified is the stated purpose of the organization,
Yes, sir.
okay, to be justified. We have a motion and a second on the floor. We can vote that motion or continue the discussion. It would seem to me that a request to go back to them, to have them be precise in their request, identifying their organization would be in order.
There's a call for the question, there's a motion and a second, and you've had discussion. so
We
I
are
call
having
for the-
discussion.
The one thing I would suggest is that there could be an amendment to the motion to state if the council feels that enough information has been presented to make benevolence the charitable, non-profit use, then you could amend the motion to say for benevolent purpose, and then I would be able to draft an ordinance for that purpose.
So moved. Amended to say benevolent purpose. I
Would
make
you
a
like
motion.
to- would you like to amend the motion?
I'd like to amend the motion to say benevolent purpose. Will you second it?
Just a moment. Mr. Williams, is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, I have an amended motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I just
Yeah,
process,
we
if
got-
you don't mind.
We got two. Hold on. Ms. Johnson?
Well, mine was processed. So at what point do we adopt the ordinance? Are we sending it to you?
For an ordinance to be drafted.
And then the ordinance comes back and then we vote on the ordinance?
I think that would be the best thing to do.
That's fine with me.
Now, Mr. Burgess?
That's what I was gonna ask. What's our, I'm not sure of I wasn't sure of the steps, but if it's gonna come back to us, at least we know what we gotta do.
But that's not the motion on the floor, is it?
Yes.
He amended it.
Is to create an ordinance.
Okay.
He added
Of
the
the
language.
benevolent
I just want to make sure.
Mr. Early is asked to speak, I suppose, to that issue. Would you like to offer some clarifications?
I may. Thank you for the opportunity. As stated in the first part of our letter here, we are qualified for a benevolent organization under the Internal Revenue Code as Section 501C8, which is a benevolent authorization, and as stated in the request. Number two is that there is and they will never be alcoholic beverage served, sold, or participated in or on the premises. Okay. And this is one of our charter, Woodmen of the World requests, not requests, but it's in our charter that there is none. So therefore, on the future purposes of what we are asking here, we are and qualified for a benevolent operation. We will continue to do that. And if this is part of the ordinance that's on the floor, it seems to be self-evident that we will continue to meet these qualifications. Okay. And now, is there any other questions that I might add here? Because
I think Mr. McLemore's motion was clear that we would amend the motion to include that your organization would be for benevolent nature as stated in your charter, and we'll have an ordinance created that should address that issue.
And that's in the motion.
Right. That limits your organization to benevolent work.
Thank you very much.
So
Short, you got your thing. Get with it.
So I have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion?
I would like to ask again about the office. What do you do out of the office? And you did say how much space it takes.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's, we have a telephone and a desk, and this is provided by the representative, and he's out making calls, or if people, he will accept people in the office.
It's an insurance office inside the building.
For those who may not know,
for the Woodmen of the World Insurance.
yeah, we are a financial organization as well as a benevolent. And these are two separate things.
But operating out of the same building.
Yes.
Okay.
And it started back in the 1800s when families helped families.
And that's where the benevolence comes in.
That's right. And
But
not only
when
that,
it
but we,
comes to the insurance part,
now that's separate and apart from all
but
that.
it's still coming out of the same office,
Same building.
building.
In the same building.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you.
I want to, yes, Don. Now I want to ask a question. of
Okay, I'll
the
let
council.
make a comment. Ms. Rickman said that they
That's the difference.
qualify for all the criteria for this. So I'm going on assumption of her judgment and so forth. And this thing's been going on since July. And now, I think I feel like we're nitpicking a little
We're
bit.
trying to pass the ordinance, Mr. Bly.
but
We're on
anyway,
track to get it done. I would pose the question to the council that in light of the fact that and I know it's minuscule, but I think the principles at least needs to be addressed, that because a percentage of the building is for commercial use, even though that money is paying the utilities, would we, Mr. Williams, be able to exempt 90%, 80%, whatever the uncommercial piece of it is, as a part of that? I don't know whether we want to nitpick it or not, or whether or not that's something that might set us into a precedent mode for future requests. And I'm just putting that on the table for question.
What concerns me in that area, if I may?
Please.
What concerns me is all of these, or most of these, many of these businesses that have already been given their tax exempt status generate revenue in some form or fashion. So that's just what concerns me about that question.
If
Mr.
I
Mayor?
could respond to the question that you asked.
Yes.
It's an all thumbs up or all thumbs down on the exemption. The question that you're asking is in that category of 8 questions that you weigh.
Okay.
It's not an exclusion.
That's right.
It's just
Okay.
a weight that you give
That's
it.
right.
That's fine. That's fine. Mr. McNamara?
Mr. Mayor, can we charge that, or request that the Whitmans of the world get with the city attorney as he drafts the ordinance? And if the city attorney feels as though he cannot just present this ordinance or endorse this ordinance, then he lets us know that when he comes back for a vote, and we can discuss it and decide if we want to pass that ordinance at that point. But at this point, we can move forward and begin to draft the ordinances under the terms that Ms. Rickman said they meet the criteria to receive
Your motion asks for an ordinance to be drafted in accordance with the benevolent use. And that's, we have a motion, a second on the floor. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. Motion carries. We'll wait for the ordinance to come back for approval. Okay, good. Thank you all. Okay, the next item on our agenda is old and new business, and the first is the amendments to the cemetery ordinance.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The issue was raised at the last council meeting about what could we do and what were other entities doing in terms of accepting cremains. You're clear on what we do with remains, but not with cremains. Russ and his staff have prepared a brief PowerPoint presentation to answer that question only. His PowerPoint presentation is to only let you know what he found in a survey in terms of what our neighboring municipalities do in accepting cremains. After we did that study that you're going to see in the form of a PowerPoint, we looked at our ordinances, and I hope we did it well, and determined that for the present, we are capable in our existing cemeteries to accept cremains. But I want staff to first show you the presentation that responds to your request as to what are our neighboring communities doing for cremains. And Russ will give you that.
Ms. Fleming?
Yes.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Did I can't put my hands on it right this second, but didn't I read, when I read the memo from you, you said that the staff's recommendation is that we don't change anything?
Yes, but you gave us an assignment, and we need to complete that assignment. That's what the PowerPoint does.
Because I'm really concerned with the citizens, and if unless my colleagues have a problem with accepting your recommendation without seeing the presentation, I would move that we accept your recommendation on this issue and move on, because ultimately we'll see the justification, but I take your word for it that there's no reason for us to change it. So I'm
Well, may I
prepared to
make
make a motion
another
that we-
suggestion, please?
Yes,
And ask that you consider it. I understand your concern for what you have before you. But since we don't need to change anything to continue to accept cremains, could you just simply let me put this on another agenda? Because staff has put too much energy into preparing this presentation to just dismiss it, I feel, out of hand. I think it would not be fair to Russ and those who have put a lot of work into it. So I don't think Russ would mind.
Why don't we do it now?
It's on the agenda.
We got it
Well,
on the agenda.
Well, if you want to honor council members'
I gestured to my colleagues over here, and I didn't get to the vice mayor, but is there a problem with us moving this because of it's not as urgent as the matters that we have before us tonight, that we can put this on the next agenda or something like that? Because we've had to go through several presentations to get to something that the citizens are passionate about.
We should have done that.
That's out of my hands.
I mean, everybody's ready. I mean, why wouldn't we go on and finish the agenda? And we're gonna be here till we get the work done. If it's a late night, it's a late night.
Let's get it done.
I'll do what you tell me.
What do you,
Just think we need to give our citizens more consideration. We have to be here, and it's no problem. I mean,
Mr. McLemore, please. Does anyone want to postpone it?
He says a short presentation, so we could have had a presentation done.
Mr. Page?
Thank you, Russ.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, and esteemed council members. I will move through this quickly. We have taken this assignment, and what we did was we went to several cemeteries. And let's talk real quickly about options. First of all, you have urns, which are basically a decorative device that the remains are placed in. Mausoleums, some cemeteries had mausoleums that I visited. Mausoleum is a building, decorative building that housed niches for cremate remains. 3, a columbarium. Columbarium is a freestanding facility that houses niches for cremains. 4, cremation plot.